Welcome to the Real Estate Power Play Podcast, your launch pad for skyrocketing success in real estate investing. I'm your host, Rood, alongside Mark Monroe. We're ready to bring you transformative stories, groundbreaking strategies, and the insider secrets of real estate giants. Get ready to accelerate your investment journey and become a true power player in the world of real estate.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Power Play. I am your host this week, Mark Monroe. I am super excited. We got Chris on, Chris Rood. So Chris, how you doing? I've been following you for a long time, probably 10 years back when you were on Grant Cardone way back. It was about 10 years ago, roughly.
Yeah.
That's where I first saw you over there. And so welcome. And where are you located right now?
Well, I'm originally from South Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana. That's where I live. But I have a bunch of places here in Destin. I'm in Destin, Florida, right here on the beach, just finished renovating this condo, Mama Rood and I with the contractor. So we're wrapping this up and gonna head back home tomorrow and get back at it, get back to work.
Nice. How far is the drive?
6 hours. It ain't too bad.
It's not too bad. But it seems like you're in Florida quite a bit.
Yeah, we're here a lot. We own a lot of places out here and we do a lot of business, and we'll probably end up retiring here and starting a property management. We do in-house property management over here. We'll probably end up starting up, outside property management for other people and might make our way out here. I mean, it's paradise.
That it is. Now, did you buy a few units in that same building, or did you buy the building? Because I noticed you've been doing a couple of them.
Yeah, we own 3 in this building. We actually just made an offer, that one on the side of us, one that just came for sale. So we're gonna probably own 4 in here in the next 30 days. And it's just a little honey hole spot that, man, it prints money and it does really well. It's a niche, right? You just got to find niches. Short-term, I'm in people think I'm in the Airbnb space. I'm not. I'm in the hospitality space. I'm in the luxury short-term vacation space, which is totally different than Airbnb. I get people all say, "Man, why are you buying all these? I heard Airbnb doesn't make money." Yeah, Airbnb's in the middle of the city and where the government's shutting them down, and I'm in vacation areas. That's a different asset class.
Yep. Well, look at Orlando. They got crushed. Everybody jumped in that whole Airbnb. You and I, we connected about a month ago, because we, on the same page with something, and they all jumped into the Airbnb space, a few years ago, and then that dried up, and now they're moving into the co-living pad split space. I don't know. For me, I always look at long-term rentals as my backup plan, but long as you have your model dialed in. So let's back up a little bit. Let's start your journey, like where you came from, how you what was your first deal? Because you and I, just in general, we've been around a while and we've taken it on the chin a few times. And a lot of these people come in and they don't get it. And we always talk about it, it's a game. It is. The whole real estate thing is a game. You got to. So back up. Where'd you start? What was your first deal? And
man, I'm okay. Well, I'm 45 years old. I've been a full-time entrepreneur since I was 22 years old. I probably did my first real estate deal when I was 20. I flipped my first house when I was 25, 26, made $126,000, pure luck. Sold a house 3 months before the 2008 crash and made a bunch of money. But me back up even before that. As a younger kid, I was always hard-headed, very driven, very outspoken, had a lot of high energy, didn't like rules, didn't like to be told what to do. And I can remember in 4th and 5th grade, especially 5th grade, that was probably my first transaction. I was selling basketball and baseball cards out of the back of my book sack. I remember Shaquille O'Neal rookie cards to people for more than what they were worth, telling people, hey, they're going to be worth more later because this is, Shaquille O'Neal, they're hard to find. I had 2 of them. So I hit the jackpot and I sold one for $20. It was probably only worth $10 at the time, but everybody wanted one. So
how old were you at the time?
I was 5th grade. That was probably early 90s. So I was 10, 11.
Wow. I followed almost in your footsteps. I was in 5th, 6th grade. Every morning I was going to the candy store and buying penny candy, like the fish and stuff, and selling it to the kids before lunch. I didn't do the cards though. I like that. You had a bigger spread. My spread was only a nickel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, it's in this, man. I think, once an entrepreneur, I think it's really it's a, it's who we are. Like I'm unemployable. I can never work for somebody. And I think
So
most people.
let me ask you a question. When you're growing up, it sounds like if you had to make money, were your parents helping you or did you have to do all this on your own?
Man, I had a pretty weird upbringing. I had mine, ours, theirs, and his. My parents got divorced when I was 2. I was their only child. My mama remarried to another man who had 3 previous kids, and then my dad married another woman and had 2 kids. So it was a very mixed, blended, complicated family. My mom, I ended up living with my mom, and my stepdad kind of raised me, but he was a hard man, so hard that it was borderline mental abuse, I would say, but it built me as a younger adult, and it made me hard as rocks, especially from a work ethic perspective. My stepdad was the kind of man that would wake me up on a Saturday morning if he knew I went and stayed out late on a Friday night at 13 years old to go cut the grass on a Saturday morning when I had just cut it that Monday. He's the kind of man that would make you weedy to the dirt. I would never forget. He would check my work and he would go walk the fence line and make sure that I weeded to the dirt. There was no grass. It had to be to the dirt. I'd have to pull that weed out again. So he was the kind of man too that would not let you go inside in the summer heat of South Louisiana where it's 105 with a heat index of 110. He would not let you go inside for air conditioning. He would tell me I'd go sit underneath that tree. I didn't have air conditioning when I was your age. You sit underneath that tree and cool off.
Yeah. And what's amazing is probably for a good 10, 12 years after the fact, you hated him, but now look at him today. You probably respect and you can't thank him enough.
Absolutely. He's still an asshole, but I love him for it, and he loves me. I know he's apologized to me multiple times because I was the stepchild. So he was extra hard on me, put it that way. But no, look, I'm not a victim. It's all life lessons. It's you never lose, you only learn. And you got to turn lemons into lemonade, right? A lot of people want the easy life, but the hard life and will give you life lessons that an easy life won't.
Yep. And something right then and there, you just said something and it just shows the mindset and people listening. And that's why you're probably listening because you understand. You said the word victim. You weren't a victim. And I think that's huge in any entrepreneur in real estate. Are you going to take the path that you're a victim and you're just going to ride the government, or are you just going to take the charge and take charge of yourself? And I know you preach that quite a bit.
Absolutely. It's full 100% complete responsibility for your life. If you're doing good in life, guess what? It's your fault. If you're doing bad in life, guess what? It's also your fault. And when you can own and take 100% responsibility, you take back power and control of your life. Sorry, there's a jet passing. You take back power, control. People always want to they want to blame, and when you blame somebody, you're giving power to somebody else and saying they have control over me. I have no control over my life, and that's. I mean, dude, that's probably half the population of the world, if not more. It's all victim. Look at me. Look what was done to me, and they have no power and control.
Okay. At what point in your life, in your 20s, I'm assuming, or maybe even 30s, when you realize that?
22. When I was 22, I was 21. I was really screwing up, man. Let me back up. When I was 6 years old, I got put on Adderall and Ritalin, which I would never, ever give any of my kids. I have 5 children. They try to put my kids on that. It's terrible. It's legalized crystal meth, right? It's a methamphetamine for supposedly kids with ADD, ADHD, all that bullshit they come up with that's not even real. Dyslexia. That shit's not a what they call it, a chemical imbalance. That shit's a gift. You just don't know it yet because you put it in a box as a kid in school. It's a gift. I have a gift. I have unlimited energy. I have unlimited drive. I'm very motivated. I don't need to be. So as a young child, I was hard to deal with. So they medicated me, and it really wrecked me as a kid. By the time I was in high school, I didn't know if I was coming or going because I had like multiple personalities. Because I was always high on amphetamines because that's what I was supposed to take. but I knew innately it was ruining me. When I got to about 22 years old, I told my mom, I said, I'm going to check myself into a rehabilitation clinic and get off of this Adderall. Y'all had put me on this shit since I was 6 years old. My body's physically addicted to it. So I went check myself into a rehab. And it was a purification program where I sat in a sauna for 23 days and took a bunch of vitamins, and I sweated everything out. I never touched another drug ever again after that.
Wow.
Since I was 22. And I got
Congratulations, especially you recognize it at 22. Most people don't recognize it at that age. That's great.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's kind of my upbringing. It wasn't the best. I don't sit there and tell you, but after 22, man, I got out of that purification program, and I was like, I felt like I got my life back. And dude, all I did after that, I became a personal development junkie. I started reading. I took all that nervous energy and I put it into business. I joined my first mastermind when I was 22 years old, while I was a sophomore in college. I started taking classes on everything I could on personal development, communication skills, leadership skills, sales, marketing. And I started my first business right at the end of my being 22. I started an on-site oil change business out of the back of my truck. And while I was in college, I scaled that to, I had a few trucks and trailers by the time I graduated my senior year. I was making $120,000 a year my senior year in 2005. That was a lot of money back then, Mark, for a 20-year-old. So
that's a real lot of money.
Yeah. So I told myself, I said, I'm not going to get a job. My buddies are going to get corporate jobs making 40 grand a year. I'm going to keep doing this and scale it. So got out of school, did that, made more money, diversified. I was doing on-site oil change, auto glass repair and replacement, detailing. And then I told myself I need a physical location. And, when you tell yourself things, and this has been my experience, Mark, and I swear it'll sound hocus pocus, but whatever I put my attention on and focus, I attract. It comes to me. My wife is she's standing right here. She knows everything in our life has been intentional, not by accident. We literally, whatever we put our attention on gravitates towards us. And you can call that whatever you want, but I call that intentional action, right? When you put an intention out into the world moves towards you. So I got an opportunity to buy a shop because I was speaking it. I was speaking it into the universe, and I had an opportunity. Somebody said, "Hey, I got this guy that's not paying his rent, and you can go in there and take his lease over." And I ended up buying my first shop, and I doubled my income at 20. I was 20. Patty, how old were we at Mall Street? 25. I was 25 years old. I got my first mechanic shop, Quick Lube, doubled my income. Did that for a year. I said, "Hey, I want another shop." I got wind of another person that was on drugs that had a mechanic shop and Quick Lube. I ended up buying him out, offered to buy him out, and I got a loan, an SBA loan for $860,000 when I was 26 years old. And I didn't know how I was going to get the down payment for that SBA loan, but that's what I'm telling you is when my real estate career took off, because I had built a spec home 3 years prior to that. And this was 3 months before the 2008 crash. I put that house for sale. I sold it in 30 days. I made $119,000. I needed $121 for the down payment for SBA. And I just rolled that money into another shop, and I doubled my income again. Market crashed, and had two shops at the time. I ended up leasing out a third shop, maybe, I don't know, a year later. And then another year later in 2010, I ended up buying a fourth shop. So I had 4 locations. I was 27, 28 years old. I was the largest and youngest independent Quick Lube mechanic shop holder in South Louisiana and Lafayette.
Wow.
At 27 years old. And
let me ask you a question. At that age, you were making good money. Did you change a little bit, become a little bit of an ass a little bit, and then you kind of grew out of it?
No, I would say the older I get, I become more of an asshole. Back then, I would say I was pretty soft. At 27, 28, I was trying to win people over in business and being nice, especially my employees. And I would say I was softer. And as I got older, look, Mark, I've been screwed in every orifice of my body in business. People, because I have really good intentions. I want to help people. I want to do what's right. I want to, do good partnerships. But most people don't do that. And that's kind of how I created the brand, No Friends, Only Allies, because man, people are shitty, and I've gotten screwed over so many times that it's created a callous in me. Not to the point where I'm an asshole. Well, I say that, Mama. Am I an asshole? If you wasted my time, I am.
Yeah.
If you wasted my time, I'll become very, because I'm so busy. But in my younger age, I was a pushover.
You were too nice.
I was too nice. She just said I was too nice in my 20s and 30s. When I would say by the time I got into my late 30s, I started realizing, dude, this nice thing, this doesn't work out. And I started changing. I wasn't mean and ugly. I'm just very direct. I'm very to the point. I don't waste time. And either, I operate with the mentality, you are absolutely full of shit until proven otherwise in business, right? I'm talking about in business relationship. Because I get a lot of people I want to partner with. I get a lot of people that want to do stuff with me. Trust is earned, not given anymore. I used to just give it. I don't give it no more. It's got to be earned. And that's a good, healthy mentality for entrepreneurs.
It is. I like that. That's most people don't say that. Most people are just kind of more still open. But the only reason why I ask that, because I see a lot of people, these young kids in their 20s getting into the game, real estate, and they do a couple deals and they change and they think, oh, money is everything. And they go out there and buy this and buy that and getting overhead. And they think that the rainy day. And that's the only reason why I asked that. Even because myself, I did a little bit in my, for about 2 or 3 years, my late 20s, when I started making good money. I became a little bit of an ass. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, you become humble, if you will.
Yeah. No, I would say I was a pretty soft-spoken, very humble guy in my 20s and early 30s. I never got the big head. Honestly, I didn't get that at all. I always thought I wasn't doing enough in my 20s and 30s, and I was a super successful guy. But I could tell you that every penny Patty and I earned in our 20s and 30s got reinvested into assets, mechanic shops, real estate, businesses. I mean, still to this day, we don't own a lot of everything. We have a lot of stuff, but it's all, our lifestyle looks like lifestyle rich and famous because we're always at the beach. Just that a lot of the asset classes we buy are at the beach. We own 7 short-term vacation rentals just in Destin, but we naturally have always reinvested all of our profits. I don't have a Lambo. I don't have a jet, and I can afford a Lambo and a Ferrari. I can go buy a plane if I wanted to. I choose not to. I choose to invest in real estate and business.
So what made you to realize to keep investing at such a young age? Because most people don't, and they don't respect a dollar.
Man, I don't know. I had a natural.
We always loved real estate.
We always loved real estate and business. I loved making money. And Patty and I's only guilty pleasure that we spend a lot of money on is we eat out all the time. We love fancy restaurants. We go out to eat all the time. And we've been like that since our 20s. But material stuff, we don't have a lot of material stuff. I've got, 13 places on the water. I don't even own a boat. I just bought an old aluminum boat that it was given to me because I refused to buy a boat. I got a used jet ski I just bought. But I would say I naturally, Mark, always was frugal and reinvested all my profits.
Smart. So I like that. And it shows where you're at in today's journey. Now, so somebody listening right now that's young at the 20, because there's a lot of young ones, and then we'll talk even people that are already older and they want to try to adjust their life. What do you tell somebody if they're trying to start out? Because the hardest part is people don't have money in getting into real estate, and how do they get started? And how did you kind of get started? How did you get that first real estate deal?
Man, I had those shops for a while. Then I ended up selling all of them because we ended up having a bunch of babies. Patty and I had 5 kids from 17 to 34. By the time we had our 4th kid, she was kind of looking at me saying, "Hey, look, you're gone all the time working at these shops, and you got me pregnant all these times. We have all these babies, and it's killing me, literally." So I knew I needed to make a move, and I kind of reflected, what else can I do that would give me my time back? I'm like, real estate got us here. Real estate can, get me back in the game. So I actually started looking at YouTube and checking out all kind of stuff. And I found out about wholesaling from just watching YouTube, and did a few deals organically just from YouTube. And then I hired a bunch of mentors. And once I hired those mentors, man, it was off to the races. I was so good at it. I was always a good communicator, could negotiate with the best of them. Man, I knocked it out the park. And from there, I just kept rolling my money, into single family, been a bunch of mobile home parks. I bought 19 mobile home parks in the past 11 years, short-term vacation rentals. But to get their first deal and to get started, you should start off with learning how to wholesale. Why do I say that? Because it forces you to, one, negotiate, two, to learn property values, three, it forces you to become a marketer. Because you need to learn how to do direct sell and market. So once you do that, it builds those skills, then you can graduate. I talk about this in my book, Skill Up. By the way, that's if somebody's young and they want to learn, that book is the blueprint of where I started.
What's the name of the book again? What was the name?
Skill Up.
Oh, Skill Up. Okay.
Yeah.
And where can they get that?
Amazon. I wrote that book for myself, my 20-year-old self, of how I build wealth. I built a $20 million net worth from scratch, not from daddy's money, mama's money. I built multiple 7-figure businesses out of the back of my truck from scratch. Once in my 20s with the mechanic business, and then once in my 30s with all what you see, what I've done with real estate. I built my real estate. Everything you see I built was built with bandit signs out of the back of my truck starting in 2013. I built to what I am now. Now, you have to graduate. You have to do what's called the natural progression, where you can't be stuck. Let me tell you where I've noticed is people get stuck in the beginning stages. They become a realtor their whole life. You have these realtors have been realtors for 30 years. They own no assets but their house. How is that a thing? That tells me you're lazy and that you're not pushing yourself to learn. I have what's called the progression chart I talk about in my book. You should start with wholesaling, which is direct to seller marketing. It teaches you how to market. It teaches you how to sell. It teaches you how to negotiate. It teaches you how to capture value through negotiation. And then that's elementary school. Then you graduate from junior high, which is the art of raising private money. You must learn how to raise private money. If you're going to graduate into what? Flipping, which is high school. And then once you learn how to flip, that teaches you how the construction process. Then you start making bigger riffs, which I call fast and medium money. Fast money is wholesale and medium money is flipping. Then you start making big money and you start keeping the best, wholesaling and flipping the rest, which is what? Slow money. And so you can start offsetting your fast and medium money via depreciation, 1031 exchange, cost segregation studies. And that's what I call slow money. And buy and hold is college. And then once you have buy and hold handled, if the natural progression after understanding how to buy and hold is land development. You will eventually become either a developer, a builder, and you want to start building your own product because you want to get away from value add C-class stuff because you realize it's less work. It's less work just to build it from scratch than it is to deal with a bunch of value add. And then from there, you become liquid, hopefully, in the next 20 years. And the natural progression is to become a lender.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's you have to take time. It's not a quick rich overnight. Some of these people just think you're going to become filthy rich, you're going to make millions overnight. It's a plan. It takes a good 5-10 year plan to really 20 year if you think about it.
It's really a 20-year cycle. I talked about it in my book. 5 years to actually kind of figure out what you're doing. 10 years to get a foothold, and then the 10 to 20 year ranges where you build that pavement and that road to wealth.
Now, what do you say to people, because, when they're in the process, say they're 2 or 3 years into it, and they get, in a sense, kicked in the nuts, deal gone sideways or bad, and, we all go through it, but I see a lot of times people get kicked and they end up walking out of the industry. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, this ain't for the weak. This is, entrepreneurship is the hardest thing on the planet. It is the greatest sport on earth. Why? Because it's always changing. It doesn't stop. It's so competitive, and you can't be no dummy and do this, right? And you have to have the uncanny ability to pivot, then diversify and vertically integrate and be like water. Bruce Lee said it best. You want to be like water. You got to move because you can't be so one dimensional. Like I see people saying all this stupid shit on social media. Oh, just focus on one thing. That is a half truth. You should focus on one thing until you get a foothold of it. Then you need to diversify off of the one thing that's symbiotic off of that to diversify and vertically integrate to create and drive more revenue. Because look at all. Let's take a look. Case in point. If you were just a broker or a realtor, or even just a wholesaler or just a flipper, the past 5 years, 3 years, everything started pulling back in 2022. you got hammered. 90% of the game is done. They're done. They're finished. Like I remember speaking at all these events with all these other wholesalers and flippers from all over the country. They're all done. They're out of business. But I'm like, damn, I'm still here. And I'm kicking ass more than ever, making millions of dollars. Why? What did I do differently? I constantly learned, unlearned, relearned, progressed, and moved that football down the field. I kept moving. I didn't get stuck in one thing. Do you need to learn the one thing? Yes. What's the one thing in real estate that you probably need to learn, which is the foundational piece, how to find deals. Once you learn how to find deals, everything can be diversified off of that. So you have to learn the art of pivot, because every 8 to 10 years, your business model will change. I've been in business since I was 22. I'm 45. Every 8 to 10 years, my business model changes. And in between the 8 to 10, when it's not changing, I'm figuring out how to make it better and how to add to it to drive more revenue. Now, it doesn't mean I go chase another rabbit. I don't have a real estate company and then I'm starting a restaurant business, or I'm trying to go start a boat company. No, everything I do is real estate related. You have to understand the trends. You got to understand migration patterns, where everything's moving, what's needed and wanted, the supply and demand of things. Case in point, when I was in the mechanic business, the labor rate was $35 an hour when I started my first shop in 2004. It was $35 an hour. The mechanic rate right now is $150 to $200 an hour. Why is that? It's because of the supply and lack. It's the lack of supply and the high demand. We send all our kids to college, so the blue collar trades are turning white, and the white collar trades are turning blue from AI. So I vertically integrated. We started a HVAC company, a junk removal for my kids, more or less. You've seen me pivot the past year and a half. I started dealerships with Allies Wholesale Depot. We're not flipping as many single family homes anymore because they're just not as available because of the lack of supply. And now we're flipping mobile homes. That's me being fluid and being like water, like Bruce Lee says, and being very aware of what's going on and just not sitting on my hands and feeling sorry for myself. When the market started pulling back, a year and a half ago, I was already buying mobile homes and flipping mobile homes because I knew that was the only thing that left that was affordable. So I just gave you a lot of information, but Mark, you can't be no dummy and do this.
You have to be able to flip. Go with the flow and like you said, pivot. Everything. I've had businesses, even regulations end up putting you out of business. So you have to really understand and be flexible and be able to, and don't stay in something. I see this happen too long where people, they pivot too late, and you got to be able to pivot early and quickly.
Yes.
In your business model, even when we're underwriting deals, everybody's sitting there. We just had this conversation a couple of weeks ago where some of these people never changed their business model, teaching this, and then their people are going under because they're not teaching it the right way. Because when they learn the business in one model, an appreciation could save their butt in a sense, and now the appreciation is not there. You have to be a lot smarter and tighter on your numbers.
Yep. Yeah. Look, if I'm a young kid right now and I'm wanting to get into real estate, I'm still learning how to wholesale because that's the easiest barrier to entry. But I'm starting a blue collar business. I'm going to become a plumber. I'm going to become an HVAC guy. I'm going to become a roofer. If you're good in marketing and sales, I would become a roofer because that's just a marketing sales business. If you're more of a technical guy, become an HVAC guy. You got to, Aristotle once said, know thyself. Like, you got to know your personality traits, know what you're good at. I'm naturally good at communicating, negotiating. I'm very persuasive. My real estate attorney tells me I got the gift of gab. You know how I get all these deals. I don't even know to this day how I got my wife. She's way prettier than I am. But you got to know what you're good at. I'm not a technical guy. I owned 4 mechanic shops by the time I was 26 years old. We did hundreds and hundreds of brake jobs a month. To this day, I don't know how to do a brake job. I can't change the brakes. But I own 4 mechanic shops.
I learned how to do it in auto mechanics back in the day, but now ask me, the cars have changed so much.
Right. But I can't, I can't change brakes. I can't fix your engine, but I had 4 auto mechanic shops. So how does that make sense? I know how to run a business. I know how to run people, and getting really good at running people and understanding personality traits and being a leader is the highest paid skill. If you can get good at one, marketing, then sales, then leadership, you can run any business on the planet. I can tap into any business on the planet and run it because I understand marketing, sales, operations, finance, and leadership. And I learned that as a young kid in early 20s. And I learned all that through studying, right? I think these younger kids don't have the wherewithal to study. You got to become a learning machine. I still read a book every morning before I do anything, every morning. And I'm 45 and I've been doing that since I was 22.
You have to always experience like I love going into rooms where, I hate to say it, where I'm the dumbest person in the room sometimes, because you can sit there and learn from others and always just have that thirst for knowledge. And that's what really makes you kind of grow. You said something earlier, ADHD. I mean, if you have it, it's a great thing. That's really what's going to help you to multitask and do many things at once. So don't, back when we were younger and kids, you're like in school, you always got in trouble. And you're probably that student in the front of the classroom next to the teacher's desk because you couldn't sit still because you're always interrupting the students because you're bored. Don't look at it that way. Just look at it and just be able to take it and run with it.
Yeah, some people can't multitask. So I don't want to sit there and bullshit, people. That's why I say ADHD or whatever, that it's not even a real thing.
Whatever. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it's a gift, because that is really the uncanny ability that I have, and I know it's a lot of other entrepreneurs, is the ability to have 4 or 5 different browsers open in our mind and keep it all together. Some people can't do that. I can think about 3 or 4 different things and keep it all together. And my wife, how do you remember all this? I don't know. I've been like that since a kid. So you got to know thyself. You got to know your personality traits, and you got to know your risk tolerance. And you don't go beyond your risk tolerance. I'm not, I shit on the gurus all the time. I think it's funny because I watch these guys, like, they're so full of shit. I know all of them personally. They can't stand me because they will never get on a call with me and have an open debate, because I will walk all over them and I will make them look like little children because they bullshit and lie so much to the point where it's disgusting. Case in point, our buddy with the Sub 2 community, right?
Oh yeah.
So much bullshit and so much half truths. It's one thing to sell courses. Look, I sell courses, but you should not be telling people to do certain things that are going to hurt them just to make money and sell courses. That's borderline 100%. Illegal, and somewhat, a lot of it probably is illegal. There's a lot of bullshit out there. You know that, Mark. I mean, and I don't know where I was going with this, shitting on gurus. It's just, there's a lot of bad information out there. Put it that way.
I would say there's more bad information than good information out there. I would say probably 10% is good information and 90% of it is just crap.
Yep. I would agree with that, man. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Especially, I've been in the guru stages since 2017. I started speaking all over the country. I started getting asked. And I can tell you, I know everybody. I've been on stages with the biggest of the biggest and the lowest. Well, I say lowest, the guys that everybody knows. And I'm telling you, 95% of them are absolutely full of shit.
Problem is that they don't know what they don't know. The people teaching it. And that's the scary part of it. Because, they're learning as they're going because they're a great influencer on social media. But when it really comes down to real estate, they don't know a lot of this stuff.
What's not even just that? You just said the key word. They're a great influencer on social media. What does that even mean? I don't even know. You influence people because you're charming on social media. Like, what have you built in real life? All these guys that I've gotten on stages with, I'm like, holy shit. I had told Patty, I'm like, this is like 10 years ago. I'm like, Patty, we built like monster businesses compared to these in our 20s. And here we know this guy, like, he's a good looking, charming guy on social media. And he's bullshitting everybody into selling tens of millions of dollars of coaching because he's charming, but he's never built anything in the real universe physically in his 20s and 30s. But yet he's out there pretending he's going to show you how to be a bajillionaire when he's never even done it himself. All his income comes from coaching. Mark, crazy. I've never even broken $1 million in my coaching company. I can be transparent. I make $400,000 to $500,000 a year gross. That's not net. Just from selling masterminds and coaching. That's like the top funnel of my business. I have businesses that I make 7-figure, multi-7-figure, but I'm an entrepreneur first, coach second. And that's how it should be with a coach. You shouldn't be a coach first. You should be a business owner operator, then be a coach.
100%, because the business changes. And if they don't, and if they're just coaching, they're not in tune of really what's happening in the market.
That's exactly right. How you a coach and you don't even do what you coach? Dude, I hate to say this. I went to a mastermind. It was a bunch of coaches teaching other coaches. They asked me to speak, and I told them, I said, y'all ain't gonna like what I got to say. I said, because most of y'all up here are also shit. And y'all are teaching shit y'all don't even do. And it's exactly what you said. How are you teaching something that you're not physically and actually doing anymore? And
Now,
that's
let me ask you a question.
Doing that.
Now, when you went there and you're sitting there listening to these people, and I don't know about you, I went to one of those one time and I was extremely pissed off. I brought more value than the people that were there that was supposed to bring value to me. And I had to pay to go. And I'm sure that's happened to you.
I didn't have to pay to go. They asked me to go. I'm getting asked to go to
you're
the same
lucky.
one. I'm getting asked to go again and to speak. But I mean, I told my wife the same thing. I hate, and I love these guys. I mean, some of these guys coached me when I first came up, but I don't fit in that crowd of just coaches. I'm not an internet marketer, even though, I have a social media brand. The thing is, if you're going to hire somebody, and this is what I look for if I'm going to hire a coach, you want to hire an entrepreneur who has a brand, not a brand that's trying to sell coaching. You want an entrepreneur first who has a track record, who just so happened to have a social media following, not some big. The bigger the social media following, usually the bigger the bullshit artists they are.
It's true. That it is.
I hate to say it. And some people say, well, you're just
true.
being a hater, Chris. No, I ain't being a hater. I don't care. I speak frankly. I don't care if you buy my coaching. I'm still going to eat good. I'm going to have a great life, whether you buy my coaching program or not. I do this on the side. Yes, I want to make money. It's one of my businesses I own. But dude, it's just so much bullshit out there. And they hurt a lot of people. They really do. They hurt a lot of people with bad information.
It was so bad. I mean, that's why, us people that I'm in the seller financing world space, and I'm out there preaching it all the time because we've seen regulations change. You've been in this business. You get some bad apples, and we see regulations. It's coming now. We can see it, especially in the subject to space. That's definitely going to get regulated.
Yeah. 100% it's going to get regulated. I mean, look, the more you can sell somebody on how easy something is, you attract a bunch of knuckleheads.
It's easy.
It's easy. So if you're on social media, anybody can do it. Dude, listen, no, not everybody can do this. Entrepreneurship and real estate investing is so hard. If you're not borderline a mental freak, and when I say freak, I mean like you're highly intelligent, you're highly skilled, and you can move with impunity to fear and anxiety. That's really the guys that are next level, high level. I've watched it. I've seen it with myself. This is not for everybody. Now, should you take a shot at it and try to get into real estate investing? Absolutely. But when you watch these guys and our buddy that we talk about here, who's got a new offering, by the way, every 30 days. He's an expert at something new every 30 days, right? First, he's a sub 2, then he's a mobile home, then he's an RV, then he's a business buying, now he's a pad splitter, now he's a gator tail lender to second power. Like, holy shit, man! I didn't realize you can become so expert so quick. But you have to be a bullshit artist to attract a certain caliber of people into thinking that anybody can do it. I'm here to tell your audience, no, you can't do it. Most of you will fail. That's just the honest to God truth. That is the statistical data that shows that 90% of you guys that are going to try to do this are going to fail. The 10% that are savages are the ones that make it. And they're savages because they out time you, meaning they stay in a game longer than most, and they can handle the bruises, the bumps, the setbacks, the damn near bankruptcies. I've almost been bankrupt twice in my entrepreneurial career. Twice.
It's part of the game. You're gonna get kicked, man.
I'm not ashamed to say it, right? I've made some mistakes. I was, especially in my early 20s and in early 30s again. And, dude, this shit is so hard. Don't pretend it's not. So what does it tell you? You better be an animal at learning, unlearning, relearning faster than everybody else, and be able to withstand the brutality of entrepreneurship. Now that I've scared you, let me tell you about the good part. If you can hang on past year 10, you could pretty much say you made it, because it gets
100%.
easier and easier. And because your skill sets get more dialed in, your pattern recognition picks up more. You can see things. I can just see shit before anybody else sees it because I have high intuition on pattern recognition. I see patterns. I have awarenesses now that I just didn't have in my 20s and early 30s. But it's a symptom of being in the game long enough to have wisdom. Period.
Yep.
But the wisdom comes with a price, Mark. It hurts. It hurts for years.
But that's what you got to do. You got to fight through it. I mean, you got to get through it. You know, we all get kicked there. We all go down. I mean, I've seen over the years, I can't tell you how many people have come and gone in the industry. Like you're friends with them for like a year or two, and then they're gone back to their 9 to 5 or something into that. It's just, I mean, it's just part of the game. You just got to go through with it. And the other thing is make sure you surround yourself with people that's going to lift you and bring you to that next level. If they're doing something fishy and you got that gut feeling, there's red flags here. Just go with your gut. You know, you can see through it.
I would say two things you need to focus on is time in the game and focus on getting a liquidity event. Now, what does that mean? I've had multiple liquidity events, meaning I've exited. I had big exits. When I built up my mechanic shops, I had 4 at one time, and I exited. And when I was 36, I had an exit. Right? That gave me a liquidity event. They gave me a little pile of cash, and then I built up my real estate company. And I'll sell off assets here and then. I'll get big liquidity events. I had, I try to make $500,000 to $1 million on selling an asset at least once a year. That gives me chunks and piles of money. You need that as an entrepreneur. You need to get liquidity events and piles of cash here and there. And the way you do that is you accumulate assets at great equity positions over time, and you stay in the game long enough for them to rise in value and pay them down. And then you exit some of them and you recycle cash into newer, better quality assets, and you get smarter and wiser. So the first 10 years is brutal. The next 10 years is, building something. And I'm at year 20. I'm 20. I'm 45. I started at 22. I'm at what, 20, 23 years in the game here, 22 years in the game. I would say the past 5 to 7 years, life has been pretty damn good, but I get smarter and I get better, right? Because I didn't quit, Mark. And I have realizations. I build mental roadmaps in my mind from pattern recognitions where I can see stuff happening and I can get ahead. And I still make mistakes. I just don't make the mistakes I did in my 20s and early 30s.
And you know how to work through those. A lot of these times when somebody has a deal go bad or something, they freak out where it is what it is, and you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, and I know how to mitigate risk, right? If I can't cheat legally, morally, and ethically in business, I ain't doing it. If I can't steal it legally, morally, and ethically, I ain't doing it. I don't need to take a bunch of risks. In my 20s, I thought everything was a deal. That's another thing that younger generation, they chase every opportunity like it's the only opportunity. That will wreck you. That's why I almost went bankrupt a couple of times, because I was chasing every single opportunity like it was a great opportunity, because I was desperate, like chasing little girls because you just hit puberty or something, right? Thinking there'll never be another girl, that I'll never find another beautiful girl. Bullshit. There's always another new beautiful girl, another new beautiful asset. If you just operated off of this principle right here, is that tell yourself right now, if you're 25 years old, I'm only going to have 10 opportunities in my life. Hell, maybe even 5. And I'm just going to be very patient to make sure I take and pick the best opportunities, especially in your 20s and 30s, and not chase everything. You're going to have a less likelihood of blowing yourself up, and you can be a cyclical player like me and you, Mark, and hang in there long enough, because most people blow themselves up because they buy a bunch of bad deals. They think everything's a deal and they get greedy.
Yes.
I wish somebody had told me this when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
I talk about this.
I think that's probably the biggest thing is right there. Everybody's just grabbing at deals, and just be selective. Just be very selective on your deals. Because like you said, you can do 3 deals and make just as much money as doing 30 deals, grinding it out.
Yep. And having peace of mind and having a solid, it's like playing baseball, right? You don't swing at every pitch. You just wait, let that pitch. He throws a slider and it's not the best one to swing at, but you still know you can hit it. Don't swing at it. Let those pitches go by. Wait for your pitch. Wait for your good opportunity. And I would say you have to be like that with real estate. You have to be like that with business. And the opportunity, and just so I'm, because I want to give a lot of value to you all, the opportunity right now, to be completely honest with you, is the trades. These younger kids need to go back to learning how to work with their hands, HVAC, plumbing, lawn care, junk removal, plumbing. I mean, all these, becoming a general contractor. What's the stuff when you fix up your front lawn? What's that called? Landscapers. Dude, there's landscapers that you can make millions of dollars if you have an insane work ethic. You understand marketing, sales, and you can run a team. Still hard as shit, but you need to learn a trade that's tied to the blue collar industry, and then you need to dovetail that with real estate investing. You do those two things, and you do those for 10 years, you become a multimillionaire before you're 30 years old.
I like it, Chris. All right, we're coming to an end. So how can people follow you?
Instagram at Real Estate Rood, Chris Rood Entrepreneur on my business page, on Facebook, Chris Rood Entrepreneur, on YouTube. I'd go follow my wife too, because she's a big part of what I got going on at Living the Real Estate Life on Instagram. If you want to, look at some of the businesses that we offer to help you guys with land home packages model, we have Allies Wholesale Depot to help you buy mobile homes cheaper than anybody else in the country. My website's chrisrood.com, kind of goes over my story, how I help people with my philosophy on fast, medium, and slow money, which I wrote a book about. If you really want to just know about how my thought process works and how I built what I built, I'd pick up the Skill Up book on Amazon. The exact title is Skill Up, the logical way to build wealth in real estate step by step. And nice. Then, and I do a mastermind called Allies Mastermind. Mark, I need to have you come speak at the next event, by the way.
Yeah, we'll coordinate that. I'll be looking forward to that. Finally get to meet up. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead down below and post your links and everything. And Chris, this is great. I really enjoyed it. And I'm sure people have gotten a lot of value out of this. And make sure you guys follow and just kind of just learn the right way and follow people that have been in the business a long time. That's really, so Chris, it's always a pleasure. I enjoy it. I like it because you're refreshing, because you're direct and you know what it is in the game. So thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Mark.